Tonight, Kemi Badenoch sensationally sacks her former leadership rival Robert Jenrick, triggering his defection to Reform UK. The Tory leader claims that she had uncovered a secret plan by her Justice Secretary to jump ship and washes her hands of him.
Rob is clearly a problem, but he's not my problem. He's Nigel Farage's problem now.
Well, this evening, Nigel Farage has unveiled him as the latest member of his team. Jenrick said that his former party was now finished.
I can't, in good conscience, stick with a party that's failed so badly, that isn't sorry, that hasn't changed.
Nigel Farage says that he owed Kemi Badenoch lunch for forcing Robert Jenrick into his hands and had this message for other would-be defectors.
If people want to come, they better let me know soon, because after May the 7th, the doors are closed.
So is Jenrick's previous ambition to unite the right now dead? We'll have full coverage of what could be looked back on as a pivotal moment ahead of the next general election. All that and more with our panel tonight, Salma Shah and Luke Sullivan, who'll be with us for the next hour. It's Thursday, I'm Darren McCaffrey, live from Westminster, and this is the Politics Hub. A very good evening from Westminster. Well, it's been a day of high drama, or perhaps more like a soap opera, with twists, betrayal, secret plots, and the switching of allegiances. It all began when Kemi Badenoch announced that she had sacked her Justice Secretary, Robert Jenrick, for plotting to defect to Reform UK. The Tory leader then said that he was planning to go about it in the most damaging way possible and that she was presented with evidence that was irrefutable. Then hours later, Robert Jenrick broke his silence and was unveiled by the Reform leader Nigel Farage as the latest and the most high-profile defector to his party yet. As I say, it's been quite a day, and we're going to start tonight with our first report, and it comes from our political editor, Beth Rigby.
Nigel Farage in Fife, here to unveil Reform's new Scottish leader, but finding himself in the middle of a very different story indeed. Look at this. The moment his aide tells his boss about this bombshell.
This morning, I removed the Conservative whip from Robert Jenrick after dismissing him from the shadow cabinet. I was very sorry to be presented with clear, irrefutable evidence, not just that he was preparing to defect, but he was planning to do so in the most damaging way possible to the Conservative Party and his shadow cabinet colleagues.
So much so.
Badenoch blindsiding two of her adversaries as Farage's day in Scotland took an unexpected turn. Mr Farage, just to follow up on the issue of Robert Jenrick, Badenoch has just sacked him from her shadow cabinet, removed the whip and suspended his party membership with immediate effect. Were you planning to unveil him as a new star sign-in to Reform this afternoon in London?
I can confirm, hand on heart, honestly, look you in the eye, I was not going to be unveiling Robert Jenrick at 4:30 this afternoon. I will speak to him this afternoon and see what he wants to do.
The Reform leader making a hasty exit to race back to London, while the Conservative leader made her way to Edinburgh to meet her Scottish counterpart and explain what's been going on.
Rob is clearly a problem, but he's not my problem. He's Nigel Farage's problem now. If all you're interested in is being on TV and being a mini celebrity or getting lots of likes on social media, then the Conservative Party is not for you.
Is that what you felt he was doing?
We are serious, and that's you asked the message for everyone. That's the message I give to people.
I guess regardless of the manner of his departure, this is a big moment. He's a sitting shadow cabinet minister.
Not anymore.
But he was one of the biggest faces of the party. Is this going to give you a bit bigger battle on the right with Reform? Like, once the dust settles and you have clearly taken your advantage today and you've kind of shot the fox, or if that's the phrase, but is it a bigger battle for you in the longer term? Are you worried about it?
No, of course I'm not worried. This is what politics is. It's about taking difficult decisions.
Soon after that, this.
I just want to say thank you to Kemi Badenoch.
Farage back in London.
You've handed me on a plate the man that is by far the most popular figure. I will welcome Robert Jenrick into this room and into Reform UK.
But rather awkwardly, his new recruit was nowhere to be seen.
He hasn't changed his mind, has he? We can't find him. Here he is, Robert Jenrick.
When Jenrick did finally arrive to clear relief, he didn't pull any punches.
The two main parties are rotten. They are no longer fit for purpose. They both broke Britain, and neither can fix it. It's a conclusion about the Conservative Party that has pained me to reach, because I've been a member of this party since I was 16 years old. I've served it for most of my adult life. I can't, in good conscience, stick with a party that's failed so badly, that isn't sorry, that hasn't changed, that I know in my heart can't deliver what's needed. That is why I resolved to leave. Because Nigel has stood consistently and very often alone for what's needed.
Jenrick's defection should have been a mega moment for Nigel Farage, but Badenoch has managed to turn a crisis into an opportunity by forcing Robert Jenrick out on her terms. In doing so, she's reasserted her political authority over her party and got rid of a leadership rival who has been snapping at her heels for months. So in the short term, it's a win. But the bigger picture is all about a Conservative Party trying to fight off Nigel Farage and Reform, not only in the polls, but in the heart of the Conservative Party as well.
Thank you all very much.
It may have been messy, but Jenrick's defection is a landmark moment in the battle for the right. The biggest splash in the steady drip of defections, he's unlikely to be the last. Beth Rigby, Sky News, Edinburgh.
Well, our political correspondent Rob Powell was at that press conference and has hot-footed it into the studio. As you can see, Rob, very good evening to you. There's lots of different aspects of the story and we're going to try and explore lots of them throughout this programme. You know Reform quite well. You've been to lots of the press conferences. You've followed Farage and others around. What is your sense of how they feel tonight? I mean, they obviously must be pretty delighted that yet again they've noted the defection, yet again they're leading the news.
Happy for now, I think. It was interesting, though, to listen to Nigel Farage make the point today. He made it also back when Nadeem Zahawi joined them, that they're not just taking anyone. He also set a hard deadline today. He said, look, May the 7th, if you want to join us, you defect before then because we're not taking people after that, suggesting that they would basically be bandwagon jumpers. The other thing I thought was interesting was he suggested in that press conference that Zia Youssef, the party chair, senior person within Reform, who of course walked out pretty sensationally himself and then rejoined a few days later, he said, look, Zia hates everyone involved in the 2019 Tory government, but I'm talking him round. Now, Zia Youssef has said in the past, look, washed-up Tories won't be guaranteed to get seats. So I do wonder, and I haven't seen Zia Youssef either at the press conference today or the one earlier in the week, I do wonder whether the sort of newer force that he is within the party, how comfortable he is with.
And it was interesting that Nigel Farage was insistent today that he's not promised anything to Robert Jenrick. He's not said you're going to get this job, but it's also very clear that he's one of 6 MPs now. He is going to get some type of frontline position.
Yeah, and I think that sort of speaks to the other big part of this is what people read into the intentions of people like Robert Jenrick and Nadeem Zahawi in joining Reform. And I think that matters for other Reform members, and it matters for how this affects public opinion as well. Because I think the reason why people like Nigel Farage, voters like Nigel Farage, is sort of the similar reason why voters in America like Donald Trump. They might not agree with everything he's saying, but they really believe that he means it, that he holds it true to his heart. Now, can you say the same thing about Robert Jenrick or Nadeem Zahawi? Given their previous political history, I think with the case of Robert Jenrick as well, given some of the spats that he's had with Reform, you know, it's become a bit of a tradition at these press conferences for reporters to stand up and read off nasty things that they've said about each other in the past. But some of the stuff between Robert Jenrick and Zia Youssef especially has been particularly spicy in the recent past as well. So I think they have to handle this carefully. For now, yes, good, but I think they need to handle it very carefully because they risk ending up with a party that looks an awful lot like the guys that made the mess that they say they want to clear up.
And who lost the last election very significantly.
Yeah, absolutely. And that was one of the things that I wanted to put to both Robert Jenrick and Nigel Farage when I was at that conference earlier. Mr Jenrick, you've said it's the honour of your life to serve the people of Newark. Your association says that you've betrayed them today. If you respect your constituents so much, why not call a by-election and stand as a Reform candidate? And Mr Farage, I think by my count, Robert Jenrick's the 7th member of Boris Johnson's government to join your party in recent months. You say you're a new reforming force in politics. How can you claim that if, by your own definition, you're bringing in so many people that cause the mess you're trying to clear up?
The Five-Star Movement in Italy, launched by Beppe Grillo, the famous Italian comedian, and I served with his people in the European Parliament, he said, we will only have people standing for Parliament who have never been involved in politics at any level ever. And they got lots of votes, and lots of MPs, and they went into coalition government. And guess what happened? It was a complete catastrophe, because no one knew what to do. And I am proud of the fact that we're going to have candidates standing from all walks of life, all different disciplines. Very, very few what you would consider professional politicians. But we have to have some. We've even seen it in our county councils. You know, Richard's been going around the country. Lancashire, for example, we have a guy who'd run a district council for years, knows what he's doing. He was able to go into Lancashire County, get a grip of it on day one, whereas for others, it's taking a bit longer. If we win the next general election, the public won't give us very long. The public will say, you guys are the last chance saloon. Yeah. Unless you guys can get control of our borders, unless you guys can start gripping the issues that really affect our lives, you know, we'll lose faith in you, perhaps very, very quickly. So we need the experience, and I think that's absolutely vital.
Well, and to your point, Rob, I haven't seen whatever this central office press release is that you're referring to, but look, I don't intend to call a by-election. But I'll say this to you. I was elected at the last general election against every poll, all the MRP polls and whatever that journalists like yourself were putting out. And that, I believe, was because my constituents knew that I stood up for them. I was willing to do things which are difficult, sometimes be very independent-minded. They respected the fact that I had resigned from the last Conservative government. In fact, there were a lot of Reform voters in Newark who decided to bite their tongue and not vote Reform and to vote for me at the last general election precisely because of that. And my constituents know that I'll continue to do that, to be the strongest possible voice for them and for the issues that they care about. And, above all, to hold this failing Labour government to account. The thing that unites most people in my constituency is this. They want Starmer out, and they want a good government in that's going to fix our country. And I am convinced that this is the only way that we can achieve that, and I must play my part in that.
Nigel Farage sat next to Robert Jenrick there, an image I'm sure we're going to see a lot in British politics over the next couple of years. By the way, Rob mentioned the chairman of Robert Jenrick's constituency. We're going to speak to him in a couple of minutes' time. He's unsurprisingly spitting feathers about all of this, being a Conservative. Let's bring in our panel for tonight, though. Keir Starmer's former director, political director, Luke Sullivan, and the former Conservative Special Advisor, Salma Shah. Very good evening to you both. What do you make of today?
I mean, I think there's going to be so much analysis and so much commentary. I think from a Conservative Party perspective, Beth was right. She turned something that was going to be an absolute catastrophe into an opportunity and a victory, which is, you know, continuing the march of Kemi to success, which nobody expected of her, you know, even 6 months ago. I think it's fascinating, though, because that split, that idea that, oh, you know, Jenrick could potentially make something of Reform, and actually if you're going to unite the right for the next election, you sort of need him on side. So perhaps she shouldn't have sacked him. I've seen that George Osborne said that today. I think is sort of off-the-boil analysis. I think the really important thing is that Reform doesn't look like a new party anymore. It does look like a home for disaffected Conservatives.
But wasn't Beth also right, though, I would say in her analysis of the very fact that, yes, this might be a victory for Kemi today in the sense that she's taken a lot of the sting out of the defection, and a lot of people might admire how she's handled it, but the fundamentals, which is, i.e., there's a lot of Conservatives jumping ship, is not a good look.
But what does that actually translate to? Because I think that there is a question about political ambition. So you've seen an MRP poll this week. Robert Jenrick's constituency goes reform in those numbers. Now, it's a snapshot. One doesn't know how it actually is going to turn out. But for somebody who had so consistently talked about Conservative principles, Conservative values, had run to be the leader of the Conservative Party, the defection, you know, for the average punter who is looking at this, you know, might think, is it really about the country? Is it really about reform? Or is it because actually it's going to work out better for you under this new banner? I think that's a legitimate question for people to ask.
Luke?
It's been a fascinating day and been glued to Sky watching it unfold. And it's been one of those days in Westminster where everything seems to happen very quickly. I agreed with Beth's analysis. I think it's possible that Kemi had a good day. I think she handled a really difficult hand well. And she did the only thing she could do. I think in the short term, she will think for her that it gives her some time, it stabilises the Conservative Party. But I think a bigger thing is going on here, and this goes to the ambition of Nigel Farage. Nigel Farage's ambition is to be the next Prime Minister, but his first thing is to try and kill the Conservative Party. And what we are seeing, potentially, and, you know, I will never count down the Conservative Party because they have been the most successful electoral winning political party in the modern world, but he's trying to kill the Conservative Party and he's trying to make Reform the key political party on the right. And there are some big questions for, does Reform look like it's just shipping in Conservative MPs? That's obviously going to be a problem for them, but they're making the decision, I think, that the ongoing momentum, the sense that Reform have got the political momentum, that's where he's trying to pitch his tanks.
But the interesting thing is, we may still face an existential threat to our existence because of the way that the voters might squeeze, actually Reform is in your heartlands. And so this dynamic, actually, of Nigel taking Conservatives but going into what were traditionally Labour heartlands actually becomes a bigger problem because that's how it's growing. It's where Boris Johnson was after Brexit.
But I would also suggest the reason this could be good news for Labour is that it's very clear. I mean, I think one of the reasons today is quite pivotal is that we are going to see the Conservative Party and the Reform Party tear strips of each other for the next couple of years. And that's not good for potentially either of them. It's probably good for elsewhere. And we've got so much to talk about, Rob. Just briefly on what you've rightly pointed out, Nigel Farage saying after May, by the way, guys, we don't want any more Tories. It does seem that May is becoming, for almost everyone, this kind of really crunch moments.
It is the crunch, I think. And it's the moment we find out whether this, I think, correct narrative that's been building about Kemi Badenoch over a number of months of, you know, starting to turn the Tory party around, starting to put out a sort of vision of what she stands for, landing punches on the government as well. I think this does feed into it. Look, defections are never good, but this was about as good as it could have been for Kemi Badenoch. But look, that might just collide into a brick wall come May the 7th if Reform come out looking on top and the Conservatives come out looking obliterated. Or, you know, given the expectations for Reform are high there, it could keep that narrative going if it's not as good. And then the practical thing that's happened today as well is that who's going to, if it's absolutely catastrophic, who's going to be the person challenging Kemi Badenoch after those May elections? Is it going to be James Cleverly? Maybe, or maybe she'd just resign.
Well, we will see. Everyone underestimates Mel Stride, I think. Right, okay. Rob, always a pleasure. Thank you very much indeed. Well, did this really come as a surprise? I mean, there were a few hints along the way over the last 18 months. Have a look at this. This is our Deputy Political Editor, Sam Coates, getting the secret recording of Mr Jenrick talking about his ambitions of uniting the right last April.
You head towards a general election where the nightmare scenario is that Pierce will sail in through the middle as a result of the two parties being his united down. I don't know about you, but I'm not prepared for that to happen. I want right to be united. And so one way or another, I'm determined to do that and to bring this coalition together.
And Sam got this reaction from him at Conservative Conference in the autumn.
Do you think in the next general election, the Tories and Reform UK should be fighting it out for every vote? Or is there some kind of agreement that they can come to?
Look, Kemi has been very clear, as in fact has Nigel Farage, that we're not in the business of pacts and deals.
But what about you?
I don't think there's going to be a deal, and I don't think that's the right approach.
Do you think you don't think it's...
No. What we've got to do as a party is change. We've got to learn the lessons of the past. We let people down when we were in office. We've got to learn the lessons, change the party, and win those people back. I want the Tory party to be once again the natural home for all the small C Conservatives out there in the country.
You would never support a pact of any sort.
Look, that is not our priority. That's not our priority. What I want to do now is just focus on changing the Tory party, changing so that we can win back the support that we lost at the general election.
Now, as we have heard, behind the scenes, it appears that Robert Jenrick was making moves, but in public things have not always appeared harmonious between him and Reform. There is always a tweet, isn't there? There's always a tweet. Look at this. 5 months ago, Nigel Farage wrote on X that Jenrick is a fraud. I've always thought so, and this proves it. And 2 days later, the Reform leader criticised Robert Jenrick for his time as Immigration Minister on X, alongside a video in which he attacked Jenrick, saying, "My advice to you, the public, that this man is a fraud. This man is not to be trusted, and certainly his party aren't either." And in September 2024, around the time of the Tory leadership election, Mr Farage put this out on X, formerly a man that believed in nothing. Robert Jenrick now pictures himself as the great hardliner. This is almost certainly done for political gain and not out of conviction. He will divide the party. I doubt that Jenrick will last long if he wins. There's always a tweet, isn't there? Makes our job more entertaining. Let's talk about the right. Because, I mean, I take Luke's point that Farage wants to destroy the Conservative Party. It seems pretty unlikely the Conservative Party are going to kind of dissipate quite as quickly towards the next general election, that they, are not a political force. And that could mean the right does split.
Yeah, but the right was splitting post-Brexit as well, and there was that sort of great unification, and what was the party called at the time? We've had so many iterations of UKIP reform and everything else. The Brexit Party, it was all about how they would stand down in certain Conservative seats, and there was, deals that were done. And so there is accommodations that have been made in the past. I think what's interesting about it is to govern. The Conservative Party, being the broad church that it is, occupies two spaces on the political spectrum, one that Reform sits in now, and the other where the Lib Dems have always traditionally been. So to destroy the Conservative Party actually destroys an electoral base with the broadness of the church that you are looking for. And certainly on the economy, on issues that are now currently very at the forefront of people's minds, Reform doesn't have the cut-through in the same way that Kemi does. So I think to unite the right or to split the right, you have to actually understand which bits of the right are you talking about. And then, of course, there's the personality issue. And it's quite interesting that you played that clip from Sam's clip at conference, which was Robert Jenrick saying, we need to change and I want to change the party because we've let people down. There's a real anxiety about the last 14 years in government. Some, great policy. There was an election in the middle in 2015 that we won and came back with a small majority on. And, others, disastrous administrations. But that is an internal anxiety of the Conservative Party. Their job is to provide alternatives to today. Yeah. And I think if they're not focusing on the things that they want to change with the government, then that right split is going to continue because it's an anxiety that's internal.
But look, the reason we talked about the analysis of, this might not be good for Kemi Badenoch in the long run, but there is also an alternative view that says, actually, you know what? She's got rid of Robert Jenrick, that pain in the arse that was kind of around for quite a long period of time. And if she doubles down the economy, I kind of agree that, Reform haven't really got a case in the economy. It's going to be pretty important. There is a way through for the Conservatives here.
Look, there is always a way through for any political party if you come up with a political solution. In the same way, the Labour Party, all the political parties have their fates in their hands. The question is, and I think Kemi, as I said, played her cards well, is what does she do with this opportunity now? She's got rid of her main threat, and I think she has to work through how does she manage May. And I think part of the problem is she's trying to tell two stories at the same time. She's trying to tell this story of improving her performances at PMQs, being a more assertive leader, which I think are all true things. But at the same time, I think by any metric, I think May is going to be very, very difficult for both the Conservatives and the Labour Party. Now, when that hits the reality, I think, as you said, of the brick wall, where is she?
OK, we're going to have to take a break. But we've got lots more to talk about, as you can tell, and we're all very keen to do it. Just before we do that, though, we're going to talk about Robert Jenrick's sacking on the press preview tonight, of course, because it's going to feature in tomorrow's papers and, indeed, in tonight's news. That's from 10:30 tonight here on Sky News with Henry Hill. He's the deputy editor of Conservative Home and the associate political editor at the New Statesman, Rachel Cunliffe. 10:30 tonight here on Sky News. OK, you're watching the Politics Hub. Coming up after the break, we'll be getting more reaction to that sensational firing and defection of Robert Jenrick. We'll be speaking to a senior Conservative MP and lots more in just a couple of minutes.
The best thing about being a Sky News journalist?
They call him the king of the jungle.
Being a Sky News journalist.
Yusra Al-Baghir has this report.
And this is what's left of it.
As a woman of colour, how did the Harris campaign speak to you?
People risk their lives to speak to us for this report.
Mr. Zuma, Sky News.
We're trying to see as much as we can.
You're watching the Politics Hub here on Sky News. Well, we've been, of course, discussing Robert Jenrick's shock sacking from the Shadow Cabinet and then his defection to Reform UK. Let's get more reaction now from the senior Conservative MP, Sir Bernard Jenkins, who is in the studio with me. Sir Bernard, very good evening to you.
Good evening to you.
First of all, when did you find out and what was your reaction?
Well, I had an absolutely jam-packed morning and I was sitting in a closed meeting and my phone went bubble, bubble, as it does. And I looked
Sky News,
at it.
I hope, of course.
I can't remember who came through first, I'm afraid. And it said that Kemi had sacked Robert Jenrick and withdrawn the whip. My first reaction was, wow, bold. I mean, this was a very, very bold move and very decisive. And I think the one thing that will register in the voters' minds in this is the Conservatives have a very decisive and courageous leader. That she doesn't hang around and shilly-shally around and wonder what to do. She makes a swift judgment and then acts.
But ultimately, in your opinion, also the right decision.
Well, I think it's been completely vindicated. I mean, there was a couple of hours during the day when people were saying, well, you know, is it really a set-up? Was he really going to defect? Is it a real draft letter on the photocopier? And we were hearing all this stuff. Well, I mean, you've heard the speech today that he gave. It was spot on.
Is Robert Jenrick a loss to the Conservative Party?
Well, anybody who leaves the Conservative Party is a loss. But I mean, Robert's a complicated character. He really didn't emerge. He was elected in a by-election before Cameron was elected, and he was very much a Cameroon, very much a Theresa May supporter, and did OK under Boris. And then suddenly he reinvented himself as the Conservatives looked as though we were going to lose election.
Are you suggesting his politics a bit like a plastic bag in the wind? It blows in whatever direction is.
That's your quite insulting metaphor.
I'm not.
No, but the point is, I mean, he went into a former leader's office during the leadership election after Liz Truss went, and was standing for the leadership then, you remember, and the reaction of a very senior Conservative was, well, where have you come from? Where have you been? I mean, he voted Remain during the general election, during the referendum. He was nowhere to be seen when we were trying to sort out Brexit. You know, and suddenly he
I'm going to deduce from this that you're not terribly sad that he's left.
Well, he's made his decision. I suspect... I gave him some advice in September. I said, stick to Kemi like glue and you will have a political future. He decided to ignore that advice. I mean, he's clearly been on manoeuvres ever since he lost the leadership election. And, but I don't think anyone suspected he would do this quite as blatantly and as personally as he's done. And I think that will leave a little scar on a lot of people, that he so virulently criticised named colleagues in the way that he has. And I don't think the public like that. And all these defections in recent months that Mr Farage has been getting, Mr Farage has started to slide behind Kemi in the personality ratings. That's very significant because these Westminster bubble stories do not really appeal to the broader public.
Yeah, but I would also suggest that you know what a powerful force momentum is in politics, and you know, frankly, the Reform Party have got a lot of momentum behind them. It's not a great sign that either current or former MPs,
do you think they
almost on a weekly basis, are switching to? I mean,
do you think they've got as much momentum as the SDP had in the early 1980s? When
the SDP,
everybody thought
they might have won many seats, but they did win a lot of votes.
Well, the answer is they did very badly in the 1983 election, and Margaret Thatcher did very well. And that was not what was predicted when the SDP was first formed, and everyone thought they had the big momentum. The answer is...
As my editor has told me in my ear, which is very, very true...
The answer is it's far too soon to tell.
It's because the SDP, of course, split the vote on the left of the Liberal with the Labour Party. And the real concern for you guys going forward is because we've already seen it play out today. You're going to spend a lot of time now attacking Reform. Reform is going to spend a lot of time attacking you, and the right is going to split.
Well, the interesting thing is it's the Labour Party that keeps attacking Reform. And we're a bit perplexed about this. Are they trying to help Reform? Maybe they are. Maybe they think if they help Reform with lots of extra publicity, but they attack... In the House of Commons, the Prime Minister attacks the Reform almost as much as the Conservatives. I mean, this is really weird. They're obviously very worried about Reform, what it's doing in their constituencies. But I was going to say...
Well, I also think... I think Labour will argue...
It's far too soon to say what the next general election is going to be like.
Well, but the problem is we keep talking about the next general election. There is going to be elections... Yep. In May, in Wales, Scotland, and London, and lots of parts of England, and I think that's going to be a pretty decisive moment for lots of leaders. I mean, Labour would argue they want Reform to be the opposition because they think potentially they might be stronger against them. But in terms of the attacks we've seen, what do you think about what Sabella's had to say?
I actually agree with a lot of that analysis, and it's not just about what we're reporting on because of that sort of big picture defection. It is about the way people, parliamentarians, activists in the Conservative Party will feel about being slightly led up the garden path by Robert Jenrick. And I think that will transpose with voters as well. And they will start thinking about Reform differently. You're absolutely right. There is a split on the right, and that we have to find some kind of accommodation in the future. But the question is always going to be, who ends up being the senior partner in that relationship? And we have so much more to play for before we even start that conversation. You know, there's the dynamics in reform as well. Already, we talked about how Zia Youssef, the new guard, the guy who's really bringing a lot of the energy and the ideas to reform, and is very impressive on media, I have to say. He doesn't seem happy about all these Conservatives coming in.
Luke, you know, where does this kind of leave the Labour Party, essentially?
I think the Labour Party will be very happy and will have thought they've had a good day. And I think, in my view, the person who is clear who I don't think has had a good day is Robert Jenrick. And, you know, look, the guy's had more reinventions than David Bowie, but is not as fondly, you know, liked. And that's frankly because I think it comes across, and I completely understand the disappointment, unhappiness that Conservatives will have in him, but it does feel like he's jumped to something because his future is over in the Conservative Party, and I think the public will see through that, and I think that oozed through in the press conference earlier today.
I would just say, on to Bernard's point finally, is that you're right, the election's 3 years away, and I'm not entirely sure most people will remember lots of this stuff maybe in 3 years' time. We'll see.
You just made a point on momentum, and that's interesting. Yeah. Reform have to keep this momentum up for a long time, and that's hard.
As Peter Mandelson said, you've peaked too soon, he said. And the other thing is the leadership story after the May elections is more likely to be in the Labour Party.
Well, we will see, So, Bennett, we really appreciate your time this evening. Thank you very much indeed. You're watching The Politics Hub. Coming up after the break, we'll be speaking to the chair of what used to be Robert Jenrick's local Conservative association in New York. Fair to say he's not happy. Join us after the break. You're watching the Politics Hub here on Sky News. Let's speak to Councillor Keith Girling, who is the chair of what used to be Robert Jenrick's local Conservative association in Newark. No more. Keith, how's your day been?
Hello. Yeah.
What was your reaction?
Disappointment, really. I thought Robert was better than that. I thought he was a Conservative. Clearly he's not. And has decided to go where he feels his career would be better served.
Did you find out like the rest of us?
Well, I'm actually on holiday down near Portsmouth, so I found out a bit later. And when I first saw it, I thought, oh, this is one of those AI-generated scam things. And then I saw Kemi's post, and I thought, oh, crikey, okay, then I've got to deal with that. So my holiday today has been sat in this room doing interviews and answering calls and emails, really.
Talking to people like me. When was that? When did you last speak to Robert?
Well, I did call him, actually. I called him first thing this morning when I found out. But unfortunately, he hasn't felt it necessary to give me a call. I'd be very interested to hear his side of the story and why he decided to jump ship.
That's pretty poor form, isn't it? Irrespective of what's gone on, that he can't talk to you.
Well, it's a measure of the man, isn't it?
You're pretty angry.
I'm not angry. No, I don't get angry about things like this. It's politics. But I'm disappointed. The Conservatives, local Conservatives, have really supported Robert on his political ambitions. We've fought hard for him to try and win to be the leader of the Conservatives. When it's been elections, everybody's come out and supported him and put out leaflets for him and everything. So we really have supported his career. And in fact, part of that is not been in Newark as much as he should have been. But we've tolerated that and we've tried to support that. And luckily, he's got a very good team that works in his office that all his constituency work. So, that's what makes it even more disappointing.
Has it come as a surprise, though? I mean,
total surprise. No, total surprise. As I say, I thought it was an AI-generated scam, just to see what the reaction would be.
So you've no sense that he was going to defect?
No, none at all. So, again, that's the measure of the man, isn't it? He talks about honesty and integrity. Yeah, he's been scheming since September to go to reform. Where's the honesty and integrity there?
And obviously you would like to see a by-election, I assume.
Oh, yeah, but he's not going to do that, is he? Because, again, that shows principle.
The question, though, and it's interesting you talk about integrity and principle, because for his political opponents, and it'd be interesting, you've known Robert for a long time, hasn't the accusation always been that Robert Jenrick has been a shipshifter in politics for a long time? That, he started off, when he first got elected, somewhat on the liberal wing of the Conservative Party. Certainly not that today.
Well, there's a question, isn't it? When he started becoming a bit more right-wing and about immigration, my initial reaction was I wasn't sure that it was genuine. And I'm quite clear, I'm still not, really. I think he's doing it because he thinks he's got the best possible chance politically to stay as a Member of Parliament and carry on.
OK. Keith, as you say, it's been quite a day for you, and it's certainly upset your holiday. Thank you very much indeed for joining us. Keith Girling there, who
You're welcome.
Is still the chair of the Conservative Association in Newark, but no longer has a Conservative MP. Now, a little earlier, I got the view from Labour and the government. Here is Steve Reid, who is the Secretary of State, of course, for Housing and Local Government. Good evening, Mr. Reid.
Evening.
Whatever you think about reform, they're on the rise, they've got momentum, they're attracting people. They're doing a hell of a lot better than pretty much any other political party in Britain at the moment, aren't they?
I mean, but what a surreal day that we've just seen in British politics. And look at the kind of person that they've just attracted. The absolutely bizarre spectacle of a senior member of the Conservative front bench walking out of his own party to stand alongside Nigel Farage, where he then read out a list of all of the failures that he was partly responsible for as a member of the previous government. He was in cabinet. He was the immigration minister who presided over the open borders experiment that led to the biggest increase in illegal immigration that we've ever seen. Now he's standing up there talking as if butter wouldn't melt in his mouth, and it's got nothing to do with him.
Yeah, but the problem here, Steve, is that that's all potentially very true, and lots of people may well agree with you. But frankly, the Conservative Party are doing better than you guys at the moment. Kemi Badenoch in the latest poll is neck and neck in terms of who would make as good a Prime Minister as Keir Starmer. They are now consistently polling ahead of you. The British public, given even the disarray within the Conservative Party, increasingly prefer them over you.
Well,
that must be concerning.
Polls give us a very interesting snapshot. I know the British people are impatient for change because I share that impatience. I want to see change too. But let's just take today. Look at just what's happened today. We've had the Prime Minister who won a battle with Grok to stop them circulating sexualised images of children around the internet. They've now agreed they're not going to do that anymore. We said we'd cut NHS waiting lists today, the biggest fall in NHS waiting lists for 15 years. We said we'd grow the economy. Today, new figures out showing the economy is growing faster than expectations. I'm committed to building more housing today, to figure out today, an 18% increase in new homes starting to be built. Now, all of that will feed through into change that people will feel.
You say that. Well, I could sit here and also say that the Labour Party said they were going to turn a page on the Conservative psychodrama. Now, the Conservatives clearly have not managed to do that. This is a Labour Party where the Deputy Prime Minister's had to resign, the Transport Secretary had to resign, the US Ambassador had to resign, a party in which the Prime Minister had to apologise for briefings against the Health Secretary, and a party that has committed 13 U-turns in the space of 18 months and is one of the most unpopular political parties we've seen for a long time. I mean, in many regards, you guys are as bad as them.
You can't compare any of that to 5 Prime Ministers, 6 Chancellors, 14
You've been in power
housing
for 18
secretaries.
months, Steve.
The key thing is, Robert Jenrick just stood up and read out a list of things that he had done as a member of the Conservative government, as if it had nothing to do with him. I just read out a list of things that have changed just today to show that we're keeping people safe online, cutting NHS waiting lists and growing the economy so we can put more money in people's pockets. Now, of course, it will take time for people to feel that change, and they need to feel that change before they will trust any politicians after what the Tories did. But this is the year those changes will start to become real in people's lives. And I think that's when we'll start to see a change in the polling numbers. The next election's still 3.5 years away.
Well, there's elections.
We will deliver that change.
There's elections, for example, in Wales and Scotland.
There's
a seat projection in Wales that say that Labour are going to be down to 8 seats in the elections there. But let's turn to what Nigel Farage said. He said it's going to be a Labour defection next week. Do we know who that is? It's not you, I assume. Do we know who it is?
I mean, it's hard to imagine which right-wing Tory he thinks is in the Labour Party, because that's who he's attracting, isn't it? He's got Robert Jenrick.
Well, there are Labour voters who are switching to reform.
Mass levels of illegal immigration. He's got Nadhim Zahawi, who was the Chancellor of the Exchequer under Boris Johnson, who helped flatline the economy. I mean, voters are now looking at 2 Tory parties. There's the worst Conservatives who seem to be joining Nigel Farage, and then you've got Kemi Badenoch, who can't even keep members of her own shadow cabinet in her own party. Now, that's what's going on the right of politics. We've got Labour delivering the change we said we would deliver in the general election.
You've lost a lot of supporters to the Greens, Lib Dems, but you have lost supporters to reform as well.
The election's 3.5 years away. You're talking as if the election had already happened.
I'm not doing that. I'm talking about the very fact that you know this. There are a lot of Labour voters who quite like Nigel Farage, who voted for Labour at the last election. You have to talk to them, don't you, as well? And maybe some within your party quite like
There's a lot of Labour voters and voters of all parties that have not had a pay rise for over a decade, and they are furious about that because their expectation that their living standards would rise was dashed by the previous government. They're not going to believe this government is delivering change until they feel it in their pockets and see it on their streets. But those numbers that I just cited, I won't go through them again, show that we're turning the corner, and this is the year people will feel that change. 3.5 years to the next general election. Please don't write us off, because
I'm not writing you off.
We're going to deliver the change people voted for. When you look on the right, the Tory circus is well and truly
Well, 3.5 years to the national election. God knows when it's going to be to the next local authority elections in England, after so many councils have said they can't hold them. It's interesting, this, isn't it? Apparently, the majority of these councils that say they haven't or want to postpone these elections are either Labour-controlled or Labour-led. Is that because they think they're not going to do
The vast
well?
majority of elections are going ahead on schedule. Where we have asked councils to let us know if there needs to be a delay or a postponement is where we're going through the biggest reorganisation of councils in decades. And why we're doing that is a third of the country has 2 councils, not just one. That means taxpayers are paying for 2 sets of councillors, 2 sets of chief execs, 2 sets of finance directors. That's tens of millions of pounds going on duplicate salaries when it could be spent on caring for older people or fixing potholes in the road. Now, all we've said is those councils that will be abolished within a year, if you think having elections this year will delay elections to the new councils, let us know, because we want that money spent. I want that money spent on potholes, not overpaid executives.
OK. Steve Reid, thank you very much indeed. Thank you. Steve Reid speaking to me a little earlier. OK, you're watching the Politics Hub. Coming up after the break, we'll be looking at why political social media was perhaps surprisingly full of traitors memes today. I wonder why. John Craig, lots more after the break.
An astonishing day in politics. Robert Jenrick pushed by the Conservatives before he could jump to reform. Plus, the bereaved parents taking their fight against TikTok to a US court. And the corner of West Yorkshire named as one of the 7 wonders of the world by a global travel magazine. All that and much more to come on the UK Tonight from me.
Big stories don't always come from big cities. I'm Lisa Dowd and I'm Sky's Midlands correspondent.
You are not getting in this elevator, okay?
The judge made it very clear that she could see no justifiable reason why Sakulas wasn't here facing British justice.
I promised I would get him justice.
Free, wherever you get your news. This is what they're up against. The wind is the really big problem. It is back-breaking work and the smoke is thick. It's been working well. Water levels are dropping, but no one knows what impact further rain will have. What would you do if this place wasn't open? This is the exact spot in Nottingham where their 19-year-old son, Barnaby Webber, lost his life.
I just think it's so cruel and so harsh.
It's really scary. We're terrified.
In this community, I'm told that everybody knows someone affected by COVID.
Hopefully this will be the last wave.
Sky News gets the full story first. Change seems tantalisingly close in this corner of the UK. Wales was the first to introduce the plastic bag charge. It's legal to let go. Set the speed and take the hands off. It's almost driverless, but not quite. Hans is a highly trained police dog. The force is incredible. It's really frightening, actually. This is my patch, my specialism. It's also my home.
The best thing about being a Sky News journalist?
I'm going to take you behind the scenes here for Election Night Live. They have gone up and up.
Being a Sky News journalist.
Ed Conway, Sky News, is anyone going to talk to us? Mortgage rates did go up very sharply during your time in office. Here it is.
First off, just the scale of what we're looking at.
Our data shows it's been happening. Question is why it hasn't been stopped.
Well, unsurprisingly, the other parties have jumped on today's events to make a comparison with a certain popular TV show at the moment. The Dems were first out of the blocks with this. And, of course, we're talking about the TV series of The Traitors. It was then followed by, there we go, Robert Jenrick, wannabe Prime Minister, and also followed by the Labour Party as well. Someone who, of course, is... been involved in Westminster politics for... I called you a veteran earlier on, John Craig, which hopefully you're happy with. Are you? I'm sure you are. Anyway, talk to me
I'm not going to tell you how long
about
I've been doing
what
political
you
reporting.
think of today, having in the grand scheme of things. I mean, quite a day of political drama.
I thought in the early part of the day, Kemi Badenoch had played a blinder. She'd looked as though she'd seen off a rival, and she'd flushed out the traitor, since we're talking about traitors. But of course, as the day went on, I mean, the big picture, of course, is the fact that a senior Tory has defected to Reform, and Farage is grinning like a Cheshire cat again, and it's a coup for him. A couple of things from that news conference at 4:30. That Robert Jenrick said he started courting the Tories in September. Now, that's pretty treacherous, isn't it? Before the Tory conference, remember, he got that box and the judge's wig and so on. And the other thing was when Nigel Farage said, after May the 7th, the doors are closed, no more defection. So if you're going to move, you need to do it before May the 7th.
I'm very happy where I am, thank you, John.
John, who's your speculation about who the Labour person might be?
Well, I was wondering about Kate Hoey. Of course, she's no longer an MP, but I noticed there was a vote in the Lords where she was voting with the opposition against the Labour government. I forget what that was. Chagos, I think it was, probably. As for a current serving MP, I don't know. Are there some curmudgeonly old souls who might... I don't think so. I mean...
We were suggesting maybe Graham Stringer, but...
Well, I mean... It sounds harsh to call him curmudgeonly. He really is a veteran. I think he's older than me. But
look, we were told that the Labour government were going to turn the corner on this psychodrama, and there's a whole lot of discussion about that. But certainly the Conservative Party have not turned a corner on Westminster psychodramas, have they?
No, they haven't. And that's the danger for the Conservatives, as we've been discussing on this programme. And there is a danger that it looks like Nigel Farage is, transferring in his own Tory drama as well. So,
and you know what? Just on a slightly serious point, there'll be loads of people watching at home going, "I want the economy to grow.
Exactly.
I want things to be built." And yet here we are yet again talking about who's up, who's down, who's in, who's out.
But this is entirely the point. The defection makes big headlines here in Westminster, and for all intents and purposes, it is a Westminster story. It gives you a sense of where the trend is going and where power is shifting and how it's moving. But is anybody safer today as a consequence of this defection? Is anyone going to get a better healthcare as a consequence of this defection? No, they're not. Are we going to be safer? Is the war going to be solved? No, it's just Robert Jenrick
John, I'm going to put you on the spot, and very briefly, talking about who's up and who's down, who do you think is the real winner from today?
Oh, I think Nigel Farage to a certain extent. You could argue that Nick Timothy, who I think is a very good signing by Kemi Badenoch, rising star. He's the new Shadow Justice Secretary. No doubt Craig Guilford, the Chief Constable, who's clinging on, will sleep safer in his bed tonight, more soundly in his bed.
So some winners, and maybe we'll see how the players like Robert Jenrick might be a loser from today. We will see. John, always a pleasure. Sama, Luke, thank you very much indeed. That is it for the Politics On for tonight. We're back, of course, on Monday at 7. UK Tonight is up next. Have a good weekend.